Underdog is the leading place to make all your sports picks, and you can play now in your state. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog, and it's easy. All you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can choose strikeouts, total bases, or home runs, or go higher or lower on three-pointers or rebounds. You can play with as little as $1. If you get everything right, you could win up to 1,000 times your money. This week, I'm looking at baseball, and as usual, Aaron Judge is my choice to go higher on the stats that involve his hitting. Download the Underdog app or go to UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up with promo code GARAGE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code GARAGE. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncp.gambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Craving your next action-packed adventure? Audible delivers thrills of every kind on your command, like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, where a lone astronaut must save humanity from extinction, narrated with stunning intensity by Ray Porter. From electrifying suspense and daring quest to spine-tingling horror and romance in far-off realms, unleash your adventurous side with gripping titles that'll keep you guessing. Discover exclusive Audible originals, hotly anticipated new releases, and must-listen bestsellers that hook you from the first minute. Because Audible knows there's no greater thrill than the one that speaks to you. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat. Start your free 30-day trial at audible.com/WonderyUS. That's audible.com/WonderyUS.
Probably has all that Vaseline on it.
This is the Weekly Scramble, a place where we chat about life over a cold one or two. It's time to belly up to the pod with Mike Fratelloni and your host, Chris Reavers.
Yes, sir. It's time for the Weekly Scramble podcast. My name is Chris Reavers. By my side, as always, his name is Mike Fratelloni. Hello, Michael.
How you doing, Reavers?
I'm good, and we're going to check in with a dear friend, a good old friend that goes way back to the days of the beer show on the legendary AM 1500 ESPN. It's our buddy, Bartley Bloom of BENT Brewstillery. He is on the phone with us. Hello, Bartley.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
So you reached out to us, and we had heard the news. In fact, we announced the news a couple of weeks / maybe a month or so ago about you guys calling it a day at BENT Brewstillery up there in Roseville. And we wanted to reach out to you to have you on to just kind of give us a status report, kind of a lay of the land, because I know Memorial Day weekend was kind of always a big deal for you guys at BENT Brewstillery. So I'm curious to get some of an update on both the brew house, but also the Brewstillery, and also with you as a person. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah. You know, after 10 years in the business and 5 of those years, the wife wanting me to retire, we've finally come to an agreement of retirement. So we're kind of, we're selling the place off, and we're going to move on into the next, whatever follows after that. And right now, what follows after that immediately is a month-long nap. And then I'll think about what I'm going to do after that. I've already got a couple of consulting gigs with a couple of distilleries around here, so I'm always happy to do that sort of thing. Retirement means something different to everyone, I'm sure. I'm not old enough to retire officially as the definition of 65 and older or anything like that, but I'm going to retire, and we're just going to take it easy for a minute and make some money here and there. I think there's a good friend of mine that owns and runs the PDQ barbecue joint at Evydale.
Yep,
I might
love
ask
that
him
place.
if he needs some help just so I can go and hang out and eat some barbecue once in a while. Just things like that is where I'm going to go. But the place itself, wow, it's been one heck of a run, as you guys know. I mean, even before we were open, we were on the beer show with you guys, and it was just a great time, cutting up and joking around. So it was some of the best parts of owning a brewery and all that. But right now we're looking at closing up the shop until the new owners take over, which it's an undetermined timeline. But we are going to be closing our doors on this Saturday.
Oh, wow.
So
Saturday,
at the end of the day, this Saturday, we're going to be closed in order for us to put all of our other stuff together and take it home, the stuff that we're not selling. A brewery happens to be just like a house. you fill it full of stuff, and then you buy a bigger house.
Sure.
So, we just filled this place full of stuff, some of it useful, some of it not. So we're doing the whole sort thing with keep, sell, throw away. And that's pretty much been taking up most of our time. And, we're basically going to have a garage sale of all the stuff that we're looking to get rid of. We got all sorts of logoed stuff that we've accumulated over the past, and things like that we're going to just have a barrage sale. So it's a bar garage sale. Selling tables, chairs, things like that. And actually, we have half a dozen beer show growlers.
Oh, nice.
Oh, we got to grab those. All I know is that this feels like the end of an era. Because we were, when you were on the beer show at the beginning, right, 10 years ago, Bartley, I mean, all we could talk about is every new brewery that was open, every new distillery that was coming online. You had that uniqueness of being both a brewery and a distillery all in one. And that was like unheard of. Weren't you the first or second in the state of Minnesota?
We're the first and only, still to this day, the only one.
Wow. How interesting is that? I had, Reavers, when I heard Bartley was going to sell, right, kind of retire and sell, I said, I got to get out there, right? Because this meant so much to me. Bartley means so much to me. The whole beer industry meant so much to us, right? That's how we started our show.
Yep.
That I went out there and I expected it to be kind of quiet because he was winding down. The place was packed. And I looked at Bartley and I said, what are you doing? Why are you retiring when you can pack a place like this? And he didn't have time enough to respond to me because he was so busy.
Sure.
But he did also say to me, I said, when are you going to be up there? And he said, I'll probably be up there from 2 to 2. And I was like, well, 2 to 2 is not very long. He's like, no, 2 in the afternoon until 2 in the morning, something like that. And I was like, oh, that's why you want to retire. That is a long day. Yeah.
Exactly. If I'd known we would be packed after I announced that we're retiring, I would have retired a long time ago.
Sure.
So, it's just one of those things. And it's not really about packing a house or revenues. It's really just it's time.
Yeah.
When I started the business with Brenda, I said we'd give it 10 years and then, see where we're at from there. It's been 11. So she's hung in there with me, even though I drug it out another year before retirement. But, again, selling the business, building a business and selling it is the ultimate, dream that anyone can have.
Sure.
So, we're selling. We've got a couple of very interested buyers. One that wants to keep everything here, keep everything the same, except change the name.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got another one that wants to turn it into a weed facility.
Sure.
So basically making the THC beverages and gummies and all that sort of stuff and a canna lounge. And then another one that wants to take everything, pack it up, and take it to another spot in southern Minneapolis.
Wow.
So I've got several options right now, and we're kind of waiting for people to, put their money where their mouth is and make the offers happen. In the meantime, we are, as I mentioned, garage sailing. There's a lot of stuff that, that isn't equipment that really doesn't add any value to anyone else other than us. So we're selling, a lot of glassware that we've had extra, plus all the cooking stuff. As you know, I always cooked really big meals for people. It's just unbelievable how much stuff we've accumulated and how much stuff we're going to have available and ready to go. But even after Saturday, we'll be here for the next couple of weeks. So probably till mid-June, we'll be here. So if anyone wants to come in for to-go stuff, that's absolutely appreciated. We can sell stuff to go, whatever we have left, and that sort of stuff. Plus, right now, we've got some great specials going. Let me run these down for you.
Yeah, do them real quick, Bartley.
Okay, we got cases of THC beverages, 10 milligrams each, 16-ounce can, 24 cans in a case. Those are going for $70. We've got beers that are mix and match 4-packs of any of the different beers that we've got. We're doing a case for $40 to $60. We're doing deals on Dark Fava. If you buy 3 Dark Fava cans, you get 1 free. So we've got lots of good stuff going on.
I know, Reavers, I did do something special when I went over there. I said, so Bartley makes this reserve gin that I really like that's in, what kind of barrel is it in? Remind me, Bartley.
It's in Dark Fava barrels.
So in the Dark Fava barrels, it's this reserve gin. I bought 50 bottles of it.
Jesus.
I really like that gin. And I was wheeling it out, and a guy from the frat pack saw me there. And I thought, oh, shoot. Like, I don't want to look like I'm just a complete moron buying 50 bottles, but I knew this might be my last chance to get these from Bartley.
Well, you got to stock up.
So I stocked up. So if there's an Armageddon, if there's a party that I might have, I have 50 bottles. My wife looked at me and said, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "Well, how many times can you buy 50 bottles of a product that you love that's maybe going away? I'll have bottles of that after everyone else is out."
Yep, and plus you're a giver. You know, I know you'll share.
I'll definitely share those bottles. That's true.
So we've got lots of deals on liquor too. You know, we got a lot of $10 bottles that we've got to get overstocks. Plus, if any one of our bottles of liquor that's not on sale, it's 3 bottles for the price of 2. So you can buy 3 bottles of the double rye and really make a difference in your liquor cabinet.
So, Bartley, one of the things that Mike and I often discuss, whether we have the likes of you or anybody else that is a small business owner in the great state of Minnesota, now that you really have nothing to lose, walk us through, because I'm always curious to get somewhat of the inside scoop on the challenges of running and operating a small business in the state of Minnesota. And was that a deciding factor in your ultimate decision to retire and sell?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges, if you really want to walk through all those,
I do.
Of the challenges are potentially, you could call them self-imposed. Without good marketing and sales and social media management, you really don't have a brand. You know, you don't exist unless you have all those things. And, that wasn't my specialty. As you know, I'm an engineer. I don't know marketing and social media stuff, so that was difficult for us to overcome that, to get people to understand that we existed and know where we are. And then the other one is competition. It did just kind of get a little bit oversaturated. Too many breweries means, not as large of a piece of the pie, so to speak. So, I mean, again, self-imposed. These are things that we did to ourselves as an industry. And that really challenged the distributors too. The distributors couldn't handle that many brands. They're used to carrying 5 or 6. Now they're carrying 50 or 60.
Sure.
So we ourselves strained the system. And that, I think, is what is triggering this avalanche of brewery closings and distillery closings. People are saying it's just not worth the struggle anymore. So, given enough energy and money and time, it would be easy for us to rebrand.
Sure.
And become fresh and new again and all that. Because, we were doing pretty good. So that would have been easy enough to do. But, again, it takes someone with more money and energy than I've got or willing to put into it. So hence retirement. That's just the logical next step. Is you don't like what you're doing anymore, do something else. And
one of the things, Bartley, that Mike and I often talked about when we were doing the beer show was that thing that you just mentioned, the saturation point. And we always had wondered aloud, both, I guess on the air and off the air, as to when the state of Minnesota was going to get to the saturation point. And I don't remember at the peak, at the zenith of craft breweries in the state of Minnesota, what that number exactly was. But where is it right now, I guess, throughout the great state of Minnesota? Or maybe that number is not at the ready for someone like you right now.
That number probably came about in 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
That's really when it started getting, I don't know what you'd call it, I guess more and more competitive, more and more difficult to get shelf space, difficult to get tap lines, things like that. And it wasn't always just about the quality of the product. It was about your image. Mm-hmm. That's a fact of consumerism. Marketing is important. It's a skill, it's a degree and everything. So it is something that is extremely important in a very competitive world.
I'm going to blame it on the beer show. We had such a powerful show, Bartley.
True, very true.
When you, me, and Reavers were talking about beer every week, we'd have a new brewer on every week, and we fed this machine of guys saying, I need the next IPA. Right. And and I'm obviously being facetious, but it was for a while there like the Wild West. New people coming in and getting huge money and investing huge money in building these breweries and getting into it. And you see them slowly starting to leave this market. And it's sad. And I hate to see it because it was such a fun time.
Yep, it was very, very fun. And that was something, again, there's no regrets at all. We did what we did. We accomplished a whole lot of stuff, compared to what we even expected in the first place. The welcoming in the industry was overwhelming, and the love that we've gotten from, so many great lovers of beer and spirits that have, kind of dedicated a place in their home for our stuff, our products, and we appreciate that more than anything, really. And, again, we're leaving very happy. We're not having the tax man come in here and put locks on everything and auction everything off. We're selling it off ourselves at our own pace. The only thing, the hurry that I'm in, is I'd rather not continue to pay rent. Yeah. if I don't have to.
You can just stop, bud.
I know they don't like it as much, but that is always an option. But that's kind of what we're doing. So again, we're just pulling all the stuff out from the racks and the pallet racking and all these extra stuffs and the fun decorations that we've had for different parties and just seeing if anyone wants any of our cool logo gear, to take home as a little piece of BENT Brewstillery.
I will say this, Bartley, that's where I was going to go because that blue polo is one of my favorites. And if you got a quarter zip lying around, I'm going to rock that thing for you guys at BENT Brewstillery. So set one of those aside for me, and I'll come purchase it in the next.
You're still open tonight.
Days.
You're open. Are you open through this week, through Saturday?
Through Saturday.
Right?
We're open Wednesday through Saturday this week.
Okay,
so not tonight.
Yeah, but get there Wednesday through Saturday. Closes at Saturday.
Tonight he's open if you know the secret knock.
If you know the secret code, exactly. He's there working. Bartley, I can't tell you how great of a guy you are. I'm so excited for your next venture. Please you're always a friend of us, so just please be in contact with us. But we wish you and your wife the absolute best, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Reavers, I know you want to wrap this up.
Yeah, because I echo everything Mike just said, Bartley. You've always got a friend with Mike and I, and we couldn't be more proud of what you've accomplished, both on a personal but also on a professional level, because honestly, I said this way back in the day when we started talking to you about it takes a lot of cojones for a guy to just say, I'm going to leave a really successful walk of life and try this because why not? And it's the whole, you have to get over you're nuts, like you're crazy. You have to get over that, and you did that, and that's something to be truly proud of, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That does definitely take a certain type of person to walk up to the edge of the cliff, look down into chaos, and then swan dive. And just swan dive right into it, And that's kind of lots of times feel like that's kind of what I did. But again, a lot of people have done it. It's not quite as special, I guess, as everyone thinks. But I love it, and I'm so happy for your guys' friendship. And you'll always be on my list of invitees. If I can keep any of our parties going at a different location, I'm definitely going to do that. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Bartley. Appreciate your time, man. All the best. Give our best to Brenda as well.
I'll do that. Thank you, guys.
All right. There he goes. Bartley Bloom with BENT Brewstillery. And you can find them social media. BENTBrewstillery.com is their website. A cool relationship that we've harvested over the last, my God, it's hard to believe, 10 years with that guy.
It's so weird to think.
But I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because his story is truly unique.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have never heard Bartley on the show with us before, Bartley worked for NASA. His job was to test the strength of metal. So this was a guy, he said, I was an engineer. No. You were paid to test this. You got paid by the government to blow S up.
To blow things up, exactly.
And it was the coolest job ever. And he loved it, but he said, I want to try this. I want to do this. And I've always admired people, much like you, that have just said, business is my thing. I want to try this. I want to be happy, and I want to work for myself.
Sure.
And I've always admired people like that.
Yeah, it sounds sad because it is an end of an era, right? It's an end of an era for Bartley and for us because he's kind of our last touch to the brewery world, right?
Yeah.
And it sucks, but I'm glad, like he said at the end, the tax man's not coming in taking this stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's closing with some grace on his own terms. Yep. He said, okay, we've had enough. It is nice to see that he's been busy the last couple of weeks. So at least he's going out with a bang, right? Where he's like, hey, we had some big days and that will really help his pocketbook because he still has to pay rent on his space until he gets it sold and gets moved on.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I almost wanted to say, you should have been like Kiss and announced a going away tour for 15 straight years.
Yeah.
And you would have made a ton of money.
Totally should have. God bless them. Good for them.
So he is the best. So check them out. They're going to be open throughout this weekend. But we want to make mention of another good friend of ours, and that's our friends at Masters Maples and mastersmaples.com. Here's a really cool deal. They have a newsletter that comes out all the time, and you can sign up for that newsletter by going to mastersmaples.com, like I did. And you know what? It comes right to your inbox. It's actually pretty neat. So it's grilling season. So it gives you some really cool ideas for, I'm looking at it right now, pork chops, Mike, steak, salmon. By the way, I use this recipe. I bought a giant hunk of salmon at the Rademacher's grocery store in Jordan, Minnesota, and I used the savory seasoning with just a touch of virgin olive oil. Okay, you know you get a giant 15-pound thing of salmon.
Yeah.
It's basically for two people, two people for a full-size meal.
Okay.
I ate the whole damn thing Sunday night.
Is that good for you? Is that what you want to do? Do you need to eat a pound and a half of salmon?
But it was so good, I couldn't stop.
Yeah, but come on.
So now what I'm going to do is go back to Rademacher's grocery store, get another giant hunk of salmon, and I'm going to use even more, although I will confess, I didn't grill it. I did bake it with the savory seasoning from mastersmaples.com. And like I said, just a touch of virgin olive oil. Holy goodness, was that good stuff. Anyway, but sign up for that newsletter. It's really good stuff, whether you're into the traditional maple syrup, the bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup, or if you want that pure maple sugar, if you've got that baker in your life, Masters Maples and mastersmaples.com has got the absolute best products that Minnesota has to offer. And like I said, if you're looking for some really cool grilling and recipe ideas, then go to their website and sign up for that newsletter. Based right here in Cohasset, Minnesota, it's our buddy Ben, a loyal frat packer and GLer, and he's the best, and you'll be happy if you decide to take your business with Masters Maples and mastersmaples.com. The Weekly Scramble. We'll be right back. You had something very, very pressing that you wanted to tell the audience.
I am really shocked that you didn't talk about this on the
Garage Logic?
The Garage Logic podcast with Joseph Schrader.
What did we miss?
So a Minnesota man injured in a cowboy softball event in Nimrod, Minnesota. Do you know what cowboy softball is?
I've never heard of cowboy softball.
So you play softball.
I've been to Nimrod, though.
Have you?
Seriously, yeah.
No. People have called you a Nimrod.
Both.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I was unsure. So this guy, he was playing what's called cowboy softball, and it's softball played inside of a bull ring as bulls are running around, and you're playing softball around them, right?
Okay.
And this guy in Nimrod, he was not a Nimrod, got injured. In fact, he got severely injured with his back and neck, right?
Okay.
Well, he decides that he was a voluntary guy. He's like, I want to play cowboy softball at this event. And this was an event owned and operated by Troy and Peg Meach. He ended up winning. How much do you think you get? How much do you think you win when you get injured when they say, does anybody want to play cowboy softball with these bulls running around?
Well, I'm surprised he even won $1 because my guess would be that there has to be some type of insurance waiver, liability claim. There has to be something like that, especially if you're putting on an event. But go ahead. He couldn't have won much.
He's identified as Sellers, as his last name. It's not Greg Sellers. We know a Greg. It's a different Sellers. Was severely injured during the event and sued the Meaches for negligence. And I don't know what you could sue for negligence. Like, you didn't teach the bulls not to hit me. I don't know what the case is. I did hear another story where the person who got injured was severely drunk and that he might not have been as quick on his feet and the Meaches didn't stop him. I don't know that, but I read that.
Okay.
Well, this guy, known as Sellers, his last name Sellers, won $2.4 million.
What?
In damages including medical expenses, lost wages, and damages for pain and suffering. It's like, come on now. You voluntarily, even if you were drunk, you voluntarily jumped in to play cowboy softball. You get hurt, and it must have been, you got early hurt to get $2.4 million, right? And it's just a weird story.
So now you're going to get me going.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, that's my job, is to get you going on certain topics, but here's why you're going to get me going. This is the very reason why we can't have nice things. Let me explain, or allow me to explain.
Sure.
In the broadcast / podcast / event world that we live in here at Hubbard Broadcasting, it has become damn near impossible to be able to get any type of insurance for events right now.
Sure.
Why? I'm glad you asked. Because of idiots like this. Because idiots like this sue people that are just trying to put on an event, even though that's kind of a dumb event, but whatever. That's
it's
their
a
thing.
dangerous event.
Dangerous event. They wanted to do their thing. That's their prerogative. That's their. guys like this that decided to sue when you willingly signed up for this. You weren't just on a walk with your family and you were trampled by a bull that got loose. That's not what happened. You willingly signed up for this, which is making it nearly impossible because insurance companies won't. And again, not to get too morbid, but there's even grander things about safety and things like that when it comes to grand scale events. But this is exactly why this type of thing makes me so mad.
Is it the death of cowboy softball? Do the Meaches that own this rodeo, do they say, sorry, folks, we no longer can do it? Because, I mean, to be fair, it's a very dangerous thing to do, right? You think you would have to get people, make sure they're not drunk. And I'm not saying he was or wasn't, right? I don't know all the details.
Sure.
But make sure he's not drunk. Have him sign some type of waivers, and a waiver that says you will get trampled to death. Almost in certainty, you're going to get trampled to death. Are you willing to still play this game? Right? You think, and maybe they did get those waivers, but maybe he was intoxicated, so he couldn't prove that it was a logical thing for him to sign, or he signed an X or something stupid. But this might be the ending of those fun things like cowboy softball that we won't be able to see at another rodeo because it's too dangerous to do.
Well, Mike, it's to the point where, I mean, you can't do anything these days without signing off on something. I mean, for crying out loud, yesterday, I mean, I have to sign off to just give my son a ride home from baseball.
Oh, you're kidding.
Because it's a school-sanctioned event. They have to make sure that a parent/legal guardian is there to accompany him home.
Okay.
But and that's fine. I'm 100% okay doing that.
And your kids aren't 5. I mean, your kids are like old enough to say, that's not my dad. I'm not going with him.
But that's the point. I mean, I have to even sign off to do that, and he's my son.
Sure.
And he's just getting in my vehicle.
Well, I remember when we tried to do a couple of giveaways, right?
Oh, yeah.
And a giveaway, you got to put the brakes on. Well, how are we going to run the giveaway? How do people sign up for free for the giveaway if they can't make it into a store? It's like, okay, we're not going to do giveaways, right?
Right.
It is funny because I've definitely seen online more people doing the old buy a ticket to win this car thing, right? And I always thought that was illegal, but they are all over the internet. Right? Spend $10 and you have a chance to put into this pile of people that spend $10 to win this Corvette. And I just don't know how that's legal. And do you think that's internet legal? Like they can do it over the social webs.
Right.
But if I tried to do it at my house and said, hey, everyone, let's gamble for this car. We're going to pick one of you. And oh, by the way, I'm collecting more than the value of the car. That doesn't seem like it's right.
You wouldn't think so. And I guess, and I don't know. I mean, again, I have been, for 25 years now, whatever it's been, I've been in the event coordination business, right? From a broadcasting standpoint. And you've just seen the restrictions getting placed on everything and just how much more difficult it is to just pull stuff off where I have no idea how the state fair is getting away with what they're getting away with. Because then they take every precautionary measure known to man. But at some point, even they are going to get affected.
Well, you know, when you're shooting somebody into the air with a couple of rubber bands, you know, that little thing where the kids sit in there and it shoots them into the air with the rubber bands and then they bounce back and forth, that's got to be dangerous. That's got to fail on occasion.
Well, remember, what year was it? It was a while ago, maybe 10, maybe 12 years ago, where we did the show from the 1500 booth, the ride that has the swings where it would get stuck every single day.
Oh, no.
And then someone would have to climb up. We'd watch them climb up the ladder and fix it.
Sure.
And then it would go, and then it would be fine. It would work the rest of the day. And then the next day, almost at the exact same time, it would break down again. And we had a little bit of a joke with that.
I mean, it's been driven from Madison, Wisconsin or whatever, set up in 4 days. They basically, to fix it, you just cut a couple bolts off, right? You're like, oh, if I release these 2 bolts, let's just hacksaw through these bolts and just see if it works that way. Yeah, you should really. I'm not saying that the rides at the State Fair are dangerous. That's not what I'm saying.
You are not at all. You are Mr. State Fair.
And the slingshot thing, that thing that goes in there, it was really funny because my wife and my oldest child went and did it. And I was like, those girls are brave, right? But I had my chicken shit little kid with me, right? And I said to her, like, thank God we're not going to do it, right? And she goes, well, I want to do it. And I was like, no,
you look scared.
You do not. That is way too dangerous. So my wife had to go with my youngest daughter and do it again. I'm like, yeah, I'm the glue that holds this family together.
Correct.
Right? I'm the one that makes sure everybody can eat, that has car payments made.
Nothing can happen to me.
Right? I'm super, super important. So in order to keep the glue together, You guys take the life risk.
I'll stay on the ground.
Yeah, and I'll make sure we get home.
Right.
We get home tonight
Absolutely.
safely. But you guys go ahead and risk your lives. But when my little kid, she's not a scaredy cat, but when my little kid said, I'll do it, I thought, oh crap! Please, God, do not ask me to do this with you.
We better wait for your mom to get back down here.
Yeah, she needs to do it. So let's get back in line, and we'll let her go do it with you again.
I will say this as a public service announcement before we take a quick break, that to the people, the family in Nimrod, Minnesota, we'd welcome the opportunity to do a live broadcast at the Bull softball. What was it called?
The Cowboy softball
event in 2026.
I think it was in Wadena, Minnesota.
In Wadena, we'd be
Seems
happy
like
to do
a fun
that.
place.
We have an affiliate up there.
You probably play baseball in Wadena.
I'm sure. Well, we've done events up in Wadena. We've got an affiliate up in that area.
All
yeah,
right, let's do
absolutely. That's Mike Fredoloni. My name is Chris Reavers. This is the Weekly Scramble, and we will be right back. I know you're a big fan of 23andMe.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm glad Johnny Height, he actually is the one that brought this up in the newscast today in the Garage Logic podcast. But I'm curious to get your opinion about this, because there's a company called Regeneron, which I am not familiar with Regeneron. I don't know if maybe you are.
They're a lab company, I thought, right?
Okay, so Regeneron has agreed to buy the website 23andMe out of bankruptcy for $256 million. And they have vowed ethical use of customer DNA data.
Sure.
And the reason that, I guess one of the reasons that 23andMe had to declare bankruptcy was their stock and everything plummeted. Do you remember this story?
I don't remember why, no.
So about 2 years ago, 23andMe agreed to a $30 million settlement to resolve more than 40 class action lawsuits stemming from a data breach that occurred back in 2023. The lawsuits alleged that 23andMe failed to adequately protect user data and notify affected parties promptly after the breach. The settlement covers nearly 7 million people whose personal information was compromised in the breach. This was a huge story because, this is, just 2 years ago, but there's 3 really big companies that do this, where you can look up the ancestry of your family and your origin and all of those things. Well, the data breach was kind of a 2-part problem. Number one, where my data is now available to be sold on the dark web.
Sure.
But number 2, sometimes, how should I phrase this? Sometimes certain family members don't want the results of the 23andMe
100%,
research
right?
to be available to that given, because sometimes identities are being protected and the true stories are being protected for that person's benefit. I'll never forget. This is a kind of a distant friend of a friend of a friend. The family had decided, I don't know if it was a Thanksgiving or Christmas gathering, that.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. I can see where this is going.
Oh, yeah. So someone had brought along, or maybe had given it as a gift, the 23andMe at-home test kit.
Okay.
And this is a family of, 5 kids, their significant others, and all the grandkids. And one of the women in this particular group flew from the other room to grab this and said, "We are not doing this.
We are not doing this."
Because apparently that person obviously had something to not hide, but protect.
Sure.
The best
a lot of things happen.
Because, life happens.
It happened to my family. We found out we had another sister. Let me restate that.
Oh.
It's making that sound more like I don't have another sister, but someone found out in my family that they had another sister.
Gotcha.
Not my immediate family.
Gotcha,
right?
gotcha.
So they were and they knew this person as another relative, but they didn't know that they were actually a sister.
Oh, my.
Right? How interesting is that story? And that was from, a lot of years ago, right?
Okay.
That we all thought this person was Aunt June or whatever, and it was really Sister June.
So some of those problems from a family perspective have surfaced because of these types of testing kits becoming available to the public, right?
Yeah, all the time.
And you think, okay, well, nothing good really is going to come of this, right? Okay, I might find out that, hey, my great uncle developed some type of fusion technology to cure cancer, whatever, right? But I kind of know who my people are, and
so you think
I'm good,
right?
I'm good.
My youngest daughter, she is the one who had the 23andMe, right?
Okay,
and she was like 2% African, and she looked at that, right, and she said, what does that mean? And I said, you're 2% African, and she's like, huh. And I swear on my life, from that day on, she's walked with a little bit more swagger. She's like, I am 2% African. Of all the other stuff that she was so excited.
She was owning that.
She was like, I'm 2% African, right? And I mean, it was really, really cute. She didn't go all in.
Start talking with a different accent or anything like that.
She didn't talk with it. She didn't pull a politician where they're in the South and need to talk with a Southern accent.
She didn't go Kamala Harris on it?
She didn't do that.
Okay.
She didn't braid her hair or anything like that. But because now she can say, hey, that's my culture too, right? I'm not culture appropriating. That's my culture.
Right.
But she was really like, that was the one thing. I'm like, well, what about this like 60% Norwegian that you are? And she's like, I don't even know what that is.
I don't know that.
But
No, that's
Africa,
not me.
I know where Africa is. It was really, really cute.
Okay, so and I guess the funny part about it was just the fact that the compromise of the data breach, where it's like you've got one job.
Yeah, you gotta not let that happen.
You can't not protect people's data because this just didn't. I mean, obviously there's a demand for this particular product and service,
Sure.
right? Well, there's two other gigantic monopolies that are going to capitalize and pummel you to the ground because you can't trust these people over here on this particular site.
$30 million lawsuit's not that big a lawsuit.
But it's the
right?
damage control as a result of it,
Sure.
where anybody that was willing to pony up for your service is going to say, well, we can't trust these guys.
And you said Regeneron bought them, right?
Yes.
And Regeneron's tagline is pushing the bounds of science. That's not a good tagline. No one wants to push the bounds of science right now. Just do science within the bounds of science at the moment.
Not to mention, Mike, you and I have talked about this a lot. You can't trust virtually anything right now. You've got to double and triple and quadruple check things, whether is it really AI? Is that a real video? Is that thing real? And I was watching this, and I verified it. It's totally legit. I'm going off of your pushing the boundaries of science right now. And I was watching where they were developing basically lifelike humans. And they can work around the clock, and they can be used for whatever. And I'm thinking, who thought this was a good idea? And I get it that certain manufacturing facilities and production elements need to have machines that can work 24 hours a day. They don't need a lunch break.
Sure.
They don't take vacations. They don't have sick time. They don't have to, I get all of that. But to now have, but they're tethered to your building.
Sure.
They work in a 5 square foot area.
They can be unplugged.
And they're exactly.
Yeah.
But we're going to trust. Has anyone not seen the movie AI with Will Smith?
It's scary. Here's another one. You had that data breach, right? If you heard of the Coinbase, do you know what Coinbase is?
Yeah.
It's a crypto wallet, right?
Yep.
And so they have some of the most stringent and solid safety for their customers, right? You own a wallet, you have to type in your key to get to your cryptocurrency. I mean, it's a big deal to get in, but they don't have employees that can't be bribed. And so this a group of attackers went and found people at Coinbase and paid them to let them into their data, right? So they broke in and they held they held a ransom of Coinbase for $20 million, and Coinbase tried to cover up that breach. It's going to end up costing Coinbase $180 to $400 million to refund the money that was stolen from people's wallets.
Oh, boy.
And you just lose wait, I thought my crypto was safe in my wallet, but you're only as weak as your weakest employee is, right? I was watching a 60 Minutes, and many of you are going to remember this. It was a company that was supposed to be the most secure company in the world. Right? And I think I told the story on this show before because I think it's really interesting. And they hired this team of hackers to break in. And these kids were like young kids and they were cocky. And the guy at the company is like, you're never getting in. We use 16-bit encryption or whatever it was back then. And as they were signing the contract and talking about it, a kid got up, walked into the other room, called the home base and said, hey, my name's Jake LaMaggiolo. I'm in San Francisco. My login credentials aren't working. Give me yours. I got to do this. I have a meeting. And he called his secretary, got credentials to get into their system. Within 5 minutes, they were already done. And I think there was $1 million bet that they couldn't get in, right? That was a big thing. He comes back and walks back in the thing and says, I'm in. And they're like, well, that's impossible. And he said, I just called Jenny and she answered at the front.
Oh,
and
so like, Jenny had a bad day
Jenny had a bad day. And they said, what name did you give? And he said, Jake LaMaggiolo. And I'll never forget that and as he spelled out LaMaggiolo, it was Lemon Jello, Jake Lemon Jello. Just totally made up a name. And I thought, crap, you're only as good as your absolute weakest link. Right?
Wow.
The new person who starts and said, someone must know who Jake LaModulo is. I'm just going to give him my credentials. I don't know. And they were it was such an interesting story. That was on 60 Minutes 15 years ago. And I thought I too could make calls like that.
See, I have a feeling that we are at some point going to reverse course because you're a big ebb and flow guy, right? Whatever it is, it will always revert back and things like that. We are going to become just a cash-based, off-the-grid society
You think
at some
so?
point. I know I am.
Yeah.
Because everything, it's not that, oh, your technology frightens me. No, I realize how dangerous your technology can be.
Technology can really get you in trouble, Reavers.
For sure it can.
Can I tell you a story that how I got in trouble?
Please.
This is a true story. My
Okay.
wife is going to kill me. This is one of those segments where I have to get the sounder that says, honey, please don't listen to this.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to get
The show's
pissed.
over. You can shut it off now.
So
yeah.
my wife went out of town. She went up to Fargo to see her family the last couple of days. She gets home, and we have one of those king-size beds that has two twin beds that separate, and they can adjust themselves, right? And she says to me, like, hey, why was my bed slightly adjusted up? Like her side of the bed.
Oh,
and I said, I don't know. Why? I mean, what? Why was your bed slightly up?
I
She
give
goes,
up, yeah.
Well, she goes, did you have someone here? And I said, wait, are you saying that in the one day you were gone, the one night, that I had someone come over, climb into our bed, adjust your bed, and be dumb enough to leave it up there? Are you saying that? And she goes, well, everything goes through my head, right? And I thought, first of all, it's got to be a pain to be a woman who thinks that deeply, right?
Sure.
And she doesn't obviously understand that I'm 55 years old, and if I had no one in bed with me, the one thing that I would want to do is just sleep all alone, right?
It's the
That would be
greatest.
way better than any other fantasy she could dream that I had.
Yeah.
But that technology of that, if the bed never moved, if that bed didn't have the technology of cranking up a little bit, I would have never gotten yelled at. But no, this stupid side, her side of the bed. What was the worst part is when I hopped into bed, my side was up a little bit. I thought, I wonder who put mine up. But never in my life did I say, I wonder if my wife had the plumber here earlier. And he adjusted my side of the bed up 3 or 4 degrees. It wasn't all the way up. It was just up a little bit. So that was how technology got me. In fact, we had to go to couples therapy.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And she said, she told this therapist that she was sick of me taking things so literally. The therapist said to me, do you know what she means? I said, yeah, it's a female pronoun.
How'd that work out?
That was good. Female pronoun. Do you know
I got
what she means?
I got
Those
that.
are so good. I'm so horrible at telling jokes, but I'm going to keep doing it.
You got to keep doing it.
It adds to the
You
panache
got to
of
stick
the
to the
show.
bit, of course.
Are we wrapping this up?
We are.
Hey, Reavers, you are the best.
Thank you, Michael. Please do us a favor, rate and review the show wherever you happen to be listening to the Weekly Scramble podcast. It helps other people find the show, and it certainly helps us out as well, and we truly do appreciate it, and you as well. His name is Mike Fratelloni. My name is Chris Reavers. Thank you so very much for listening to this episode of the Weekly Scramble podcast. We'll talk to you again next time, and until then, cheers.